Dude, I don't know how y'all do it. I applaud you for going to work every day having to talk about this dude. I mean, I just think he is the worst. And I'm not talking about his talent, because I know as a physical talent, I know he's got all the tools. But the reason I've called him the worst when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL, Tom, is because I find him to be leaderless. I find him to be non-inspirational. A matter of fact, he's like, I mean, I consider, I don't even know what to consider him. He's like he drains and sucks the life out of a franchise as far as I'm concerned. How do y'all deal with Jay Cutler?
You hate him so hard, don't you? You hate him so hard.
I despise him as a player.
Isn't he so dramatic, Tom?
I think, listen, I think the leadership criticism is warranted. And I think that it was more warranted earlier in his career in Chicago. And I think if you talk to his previous teammates from his initial spin there, Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs and Olin Kreutz, guys that were strong voices and great players inside that locker room. I think there was some resentment that Jay was going to come in and all of a sudden take them to places they hadn't been. So I don't think there was a real good mesh at that point. I think the last 3-4 years there in Chicago, there's a different story. And I think if you talk to the guys that are there in that locker room now, they tell you a different story. I think the fact that he's older, he's married, he's got 3 kids, I think he's a different guy. I think it's valid criticism. I think that is very valid criticism. On the field, I personally don't believe he is Satan in a football uniform. There has been some good, there has been some bad. I think 2 issues exist with Jay. First of all, the potential has never intersected with the production. The abundance of raw talent leads you to believe he's going to be better than he is. It hasn't been just his fault. There have been times when he hasn't been protected.
He's mid-30s now. It's not like suddenly he's going to wake up and be amazing.
True, but I think that he's a guy, if you put him in a confined system and you have a very strong offensive coordinator, I think he can play effectively. And I think 2015 with Adam Gase.
But my issue with anybody who comes to the defense of him in any way is does it correlate with what we conditionally say about a quarterback? We don't just talk about their ability. We talk about their ability to lead men. We talk about their ability to inspire and to galvanize the troops around them, because the position is so important that if they are missing something so flagrantly, that it could literally drain the life out of their team. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about.
I'll say something that'll blow a gasket for you right now. Look, I just want to ask you this, and then I want to see Stephen A's reaction. Can you talk about Jay Cutler's toughness?
Oh, I think Jay Cutler gets a hugely bad rap about his toughness. And I think if you ask players who did not actually see eye to eye with him in that locker room, and Brian Urlacher is a good example. Maybe Brian and Jay didn't see eye to eye on a lot of different things. We have Brian on our radio show weekly during the football season back in Chicago, and Brian will attest to Jay Cutler's toughness. That is one thing, Stephen A., with all due respect, that I do not agree with you on. I believe Jay Cutler has lived through some horrendous football beatings on the field. I think 2 years ago he came back from a torn groin in just a week. I know this is an issue that probably my stance isn't popular, but his toughness is something I have never, ever questioned.
Well, before we get into that, would you please show the video? I mean, the NFC Championship game, what is it, 2010? All right, when it's 2010.
Oh, no.
Now, he couldn't backpedal in the pocket, but he could damn sure pedal on a bicycle. Now, let me tell you something, Tom.
Do you think that's an athletic move on a bicycle?
Excuse me.
Well, yeah.
Excuse me. You trying to tell me it's a Super Bowl berth on the line, and you can't backpedal in the pocket, but you could get on a bicycle?
Let me ask you, I think it's a dangerous thing to do, to look at somebody's injury and then project what they can and they can't do.
Fair enough.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Le'Veon Bell, we all think he's a great player and a tough guy.
Yes.
Tapped out after a series and a half in the AFC title game with a groin injury. I don't think that he tapped out.
Running back is different than a quarterback. You know that better than me, Tom.
I know, but you have to, Stephen A., you have to have your base to throw the football. I'll give you another one. Same year, Maurice Jones-Drew, great player, tough guy. Missed the final 2 games of that season when his team was in a playoff chase.
Another running back.
Come on.
I'm going to have to listen.
Steph Curry missed time last year in the postseason with the same injury.
Wait a minute. I'm deferring, my man. I'm deferring. I understand what you're saying. I'm saying to you, am I wrong to tell you you can't compare running backs to a quarterback?
Oh, I think you're undervaluing the importance of the base of a quarterback that has to set and turn. All of your power as a quarterback comes from your core. If you don't have a solid base, you've got no chance.
But that's where I'm going. I'm saying to you, what's your alternative? Who is your backup?
I think it was Caleb Haney.
Yeah, Caleb Haney.
Who gives you the best chance to win?
Who gives you the best? Are you trying to tell me Caleb Haney gives you a better chance?
I think it's a dangerous assertion to say a guy who who's been a competitor his entire career,
Okay.
tapped out and couldn't play because he wasn't tough enough.
Listen, you and I will debate till the cows come home. I never, ever said that Jay Cutler wasn't tough because I know offensive lines. He had played with suspect offensive lines for years, and he was getting beat up. He was on suicide watch. I never questioned the toughness overall. I do bring up that particular moment, though, because you and I will disagree forever.
My dad's 72 years old, and he can ride a bicycle like that, but he can't stand in the pocket and backpedal.
Well, I understand, hold on. But I guarantee you, if your daddy was 33 years of age and had the same injury, and it was a Super Bowl berth on the line, I think if Tom Waddle had the same injury,
I think that's a dangerous comparison.
Tom, does Philip Rivers stay out of that game?
I live dangerously.
That I don't know. I mean, I know Philip Rivers played with a torn ACL in a playoff game that they were able to brace against the New England Patriots. I think
Can
it's
we
dangerous.
stop living in the past for 1 second? I just want to hear if he should be a starter, if you think he should be an NFL starter moving forward.
I think he's going to start at least 8 games in the National Football League next year for a team that's going to give him a chance.
That's
Not
why you looked
for
away and said
Chicago.
that. That's why you looked away and said that.
No, I did not.
I can't believe you're saying this stuff.
No,
I mean,
stop.
and you're
Stephen
going
A.,
back
come
to
on.
Chicago, and you're going to go on the radio and say, do you say this stuff in Chicago?
I do, yes. Yes.
And what do they say to you? What do they say to you when you walk the streets of Chicago?
It's a very, Stephen A., it's a very difficult job to try to defend Jay in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I admit that, and I'm telling you that he hasn't been the quarterback that everyone in Chicago expected him to be.
I know that. I know you get that, but I asked you a direct question. I'm talking about the incident that we were talking about in 2010, and what you're saying, it's hard to gauge all of this other stuff. I'm saying you go on the air and say that stuff?
Absolutely.
And what do they say to you, Tom? What do they say to you?
You know what they say? They say, Tom, you should know because you actually played.
Okay.
I didn't mean it directly at you.
No.
I'm saying, but the callers call me and say,
all I know is
would
that
you be able to
bicycle
do
did
it?
look kind of hard to me. That looked kind of.
You guys are ridiculous.
Let me be real. That's fair.
Backpedaling with pass rushers coming at you versus, please.
I don't even mind, even if you were calling me out.
But I wasn't. You know I wasn't calling you out.
I'm good with it because you did play and I did not. But what I asked you was the fans. You're trying to tell me that great sports town, that is the city of Chicago, sit up. So in other words, they'll pick up the phone and call your show, and you're trying to tell me what they say to you is, oh, you played, we didn't.
No. What they say is they have the same perspective, and I tell them, I suggest to them that I think it's very dangerous for you to believe or come to the conclusion that Jay was capable of stepping back into that game and playing at that level.
Let me tell y'all something. Y'all keep having that attitude all you want. You might as well keep Jay Cutler. You'll keep losing.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
8 games next year.
He's damn right, because he's gone
if
because they know.
If it doesn't work out with Jay, guess what? We got the NFL draft. Tom, so good to see you.
Great to see you.
Speaking of which, Myles Garrett is expected to be